Well, here's my next project. As you can tell, I like working on a lot of this vintage audio equipment. This is a Sansui 881 stereo receiver, and basically I have not tried this one yet. I just pulled it off the pile. Guy told me it blew a fuse and he didn't replace it. He said there's probably something else wrong and shut it down. So I gotta figure out what's wrong, pretty much. Let's get out the dim bulb tester and hook it up and see if it's even gonna start up or what's going on. Well, I pulled the main fuse and that main fuse is good. So I've got my dim bulb test here. I got a 60 watt in there. I probably should use something a little bit smaller, but if something's already blown, I guess it is what it is. Seems to dim down okay, and I heard a click in the receiver. Seems like we're missing a dial light or two. I like that light up green there. That's pretty slick looking. Let me get out my meter and see what's coming out of the speakers. Well, I've got my meter out and I'm getting about 60 to 70 millivolts of DC in the one side, the right channel, and about 9 millivolts in the left channel. So I'm going to hook up some speakers here and see if I can play some audio. Well, I got it hooked up. And basically, both channels are having issues. There's some pretty nasty hum coming from the right side. You can hear that, but it's not coming from this side at all. And there's actually nothing coming from the left side. I got a radio. Nothing coming out of the left side at all. So something's blowing with the left. Although if I do turn the left up, I get this crackling. Anyway, there's definitely something wrong with this receiver. Also got to work on these tape monitor buttons. They're not staying in. Well, 2 goes in. Actually, 2 works okay. Maybe needs a lubrication, but anyway, I'm gonna crack this thing open and try and figure out. At least we got one channel that's out. But it seems like protection's kicking in, so it's losing signal somewhere else along the way, and it's not giving a DC offset, which means the protection will click in okay, but you're not getting any sound. So we're missing audio somewhere along the path. Could be in the preamp, could be in the power amp section. I don't know. I'm gonna open up this thing and take a look at it. Well, I've actually found that there was a fuse missing. This may have been the fuse that the gentleman was talking about. Don't worry, it's off. I got my screwdriver in there. This one right here. So I've put a new fuse in there. I had a 5 amp 250 volt fuse, so I have the right value. Never put a higher value fuse in there. If you're going to do some testing or you just want to try a new fuse, put something lower in. That way it would blow earlier if there were a fault. If you put something higher in, it may not blow if there's a fault and you start destroying other components. So I'm going to try this again now here. I have my dim bulb tester on. I would shut both switches off for safety when I'm working on a piece of equipment. I'm going to click. Display still needs a bulb, I think. I might have some of those little bulbs up lying around I can try. Eventually I'd like to put LED bulbs behind there. It's certainly hard to tell. I guess I'll have to, oh here, I got the meter. Oh, we're not getting any DC. 12 millivolts of AC. Well, Based on my meter, it looks like it's safe to hook up a speaker to that channel, so let's try that. Well, I'm happy to say that seems like that hum was just a really simple grounding issue. Actually, came back here. This is on right now, so I can't touch anything, but tighten up the screws here. Check the connections, the ground braid there to both caps. And there's another screw over here that has a grounding there. Right there. And tighten all those up, and the hum seems to have gone completely away. I can switch to an unused source, for example. Well, you can hear a little bit of the noise, but you don't hear any hum in either speaker. So that seems to have taken care of the hum. So I've actually got it playing, and it doesn't sound too bad, honestly. Sounds pretty decent. So I still got a couple issues to take care of. I'm probably going to go through and recap this thing. This is top of the line for this model year, and it's kind of crummy here. The knobs are, you can't really see it too well in the video, but they're they got like a haze on them, like a dirt that's dried on there. A couple of these have there you can see that there's a lot of crust and stuff, like somebody's smoking or whatever. The receiver doesn't smell like smoking, so I don't know if that was smoking or just 35 years of dirt, but could use a good cleaning, that's for sure. And I got to figure out if I can get a replacement bulb for that. So I may try and find some LED, some of those little LED mod bulbs. I've used them in the past once. They turned out pretty well. I don't know how it's going to do with this green color. The blue, they seem to work okay, because it just makes it a slightly deeper blue rather than a greenish blue teal color, which the original blue was very deep, as the manufacturer wanted anyway. So I don't know what it's going to do with this green, though. It looks brighter on the video than it actually is. It's kind of dim in real life, to be honest. Everything in the video is brighter, the lights in here and everything for some reason. But LEDs might help brighten this up a little bit. But either way, I need to find a bulb. So I'm going to try and get the faceplate off and see if I can work that. And I got to figure out what's going on with this tape monitor that won't stay in. Hope it's a simple fix. And this one's pretty sticky too, like it goes in and can't always get it. Can't always get it to come back out easily. So hopefully those are simple fixes. If not, I'll be trying to source some switches. So I'll keep working on this. While I'm investigating, I thought I had a bad bulb, and actually stuck in one of my little LED ones that I had ordered for something else, and it still wouldn't light, and I said, maybe, it's not going to work here. I think these LED ones do run on AC or DC, because they do have diodes in there, you can see, but it wasn't working, and I started moving bulbs around, and nothing would work in this end spot. I said, that's kind of funky. So I took a look back here. See where this blue wire attaches to the circuit board here? Oh, it's very hard to see. Right there, it's nearly impossible to see, but the wire is soldered to the circuit board and a terminal at the same time. That's the back side of these light clips, which are basically fuse clips, to be honest. And it's actually cracked there. You can't really see it that well in the video, so I apologize for that. However, there's my culprit. I actually touched that joint and the light came on. So I'm going to warm up the soldering iron and try and get that touched up so I can at least have a fully lit display, and then move on from there. Well, it looks like the bulb is burned out, because I can hear it's definitely playing in stereo in this radio station. I'm getting I got the probes. I didn't know which lead was which, so it says negative, but it's I'll turn this down for a second. It says negative 11 volts, but it's just the way I got the probes. So I am getting basically 12 volts. And I think it's an 8-volt lamp because there is a dropping resistor, but we're not getting any drop because the filament of the bulb is burned out. So I'm going to see if I have another one of these little bulbs or something. If not, I can fit an LED in there. I do that all the time. And just need a dropping resistor for that one since, well, I may be able to make it work with this one. But anyway, I'm going to work on trying to change this bulb right now, see if I can get the stereo light working. Well, I've found my stash of cool white LEDs. So I've gone ahead and installed a new LED in place of the bulb there. I tested it out briefly with some alligator clips and made the appropriate adjustments to brightness and current. And now I've got it installed. So let's take a look. Plug in the receiver since I had it unplugged. Now I've had to turn this light off when listening to this thing because for some reason this LED bulb that I have in here puts out so much interference that you can't tune in any radio at all with the thing on. So anyway. Looks good. Good, clean light. Looks kind of pinkish in the video, but it's definitely a nice red in real life, so turn that down. So far everything's looking good. So I got the FM stereo thing taken care of. Eventually I want to convert all these other bulbs. You can see that one's putting out a lot of backlight behind it, but it doesn't really matter. I want to convert all these other bulbs to LEDs as well, eventually here. So that'll happen eventually. Right now I'm kind of in the repair phase. I want to get this thing working perfectly, and then I can start doing upgrades and additions and restoration type stuff to keep it working for longer. So the next step is going to be figure out what's going on with these. I think it's this one. Yeah. Figure out what's going on with these switches, if they're just gummed up or what's going on. So I'm going to probably have to take, it looks like there's 2 screws here, take all these caps off. There's probably a board. I'm going to have to check it. I did have it flipped over at one point, but I'm going to have to check it and pull out this board probably, and that way I can access the switches. I want to make another note before I moved on about these LEDs that I use. I actually found these on Amazon, which is not a very likely place for me to buy electronics, but for some reason I decided to try them. They put out about 3000 K color temperature, and they're just clear LEDs. It's white light. It's not too bluish like you see in a lot of places. It's pretty decent. But what I do is, as I drop the LED, I rough up the surface of the LED that's right now very clear. I rough it up with sandpaper, and that basically helps to spread the light around, because if you just installed one of these as is, the light is pointing straight out, and you know, for even small indicators like this, you'll get a hot spot in the middle, you know, on this one or wherever. And especially for anything bigger at all, it does not work. So I actually rough up the surface of the LED just to have it give some diffusion for the light, and that seems to work really well. For most of these little bulbs that are used in function and other indicators behind panels, that seems to work about 95% of the time, and then the rest of the time you got to get even more creative, but that seems to work pretty well. So that's just kind of a tip for anyone who's maybe doing this and, you know, is encountering some hot spots or different patterns in the light where you can really tell it's not a bulb behind there. Try roughing up the LED with a piece of sandpaper on, just on the front. Just rough up the plastic, and that should help out quite a bit. Well, I've got the switches out, try and figure out what's going on with that, and I actually figured out that I took it's this one, the middle one. I took the tape monitor 1 apart and found that the little bar that actually actuates inside the locking mechanism of the switch is actually broken off. There should be another piece here at the bottom that extends down a little ways that locks it into the end of the switch. Let's see if I can get a good picture there. Well, You're not going to get a picture. But basically what I did was I found some old leads of components I had snipped off. This is a fairly thick one. It's not easily bendable. And I bent it into the appropriate shape and actually installed it in that switch there, the middle one. And it actually seems to be working okay. You can lock it in, lock it out, lock it in, lock it out. You know, seems to be working quite well. I still got to work on tape monitor number 2 here. This one doesn't always seem to want to come back out, so may have to do a similar thing with that one. But tape monitor 1 is actually working really well. Doesn't sound as clicky as the other switches. The other ones sound a little more clicky. But you know what? If it goes in and out every time and locks in properly, who am I to say no? I'm sure trying to find an original switch like this is super expensive. So if I'm able to fix this one and it works properly, then why not? So I'm going to take this one apart and try and deal with that. Figure out why it's sticking like that. Well, there it is. It's working. The stereo indicator goes out when you press the button too. There you go. Tape 1. Tape 2. I'm muting. So now I have gotten to the point basically where I can say this thing is fully working. I mean, if somebody, for example, if somebody had sent it to me and they didn't want it recapped or upgraded in any way, I'd probably still have to deoxy controls and clean some of the knobs off a little bit better, but I could return it to them saying it's fully working, it's ready to go. Now, that being said, I'd kind of like to take it a bit further and actually go ahead and do some preventative maintenance on here. And I guess the only thing I really haven't checked at this point yet is the bias and DC offset. Well, I have checked the DC offset because I checked the speaker terminals and I was getting basically 0. It was very close, a few millivolts maybe. I think the highest I had was 17 millivolts or something, which is fine. But now comes the stage where everything's working and I can go ahead and take it a step further. I've got a couple other things to work on, so I may not get back to this for a little while, but I do intend to fully recap it. I've got on order some fuse lamp cartridge lamps that are LED for behind here, so there's 3 behind here and then 1 behind each of these. So I'll get that installed at some point. Get this aluminum shined up a little bit better. It's a little rough at the moment. Get it shined up and cleaner looking, and then polish all the knobs. I mean, you can still see in the volume knob there's a whole bunch of crust there. And they really need a good soaking and toothbrush and polish and wax on the knobs. I mean, this thing could really pop. It could really shine. And it will when I'm done with it, but it's not done yet. So that's it on that for now, but there will be a follow-up at some point when I go ahead and recap it. Maybe a follow-up showing the difference between the incandescent bulbs and the LEDs behind here. If they don't look quite right, I'll stay with the incandescents behind there, and they're still very easy to come by, those original fuse lamp cartridge lamps that you put behind there. They're still pretty easy to come by. I just rather not have to change them at all, or whoever ends up with the receiver, if I don't keep it, wouldn't have to change it. So there'll be a follow-up here to this, but that's all for right now.